What's up, everybody? Just want to take a quick second and let people know that I am self-supported. I now put all of my episodes on Substack for paid subscribers. I put them up early, and then 24 hours later, I release them to the public on all my platforms. I also have Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, Zelle, a P.O. Box, and Locals, Patreon. And all of the links are in the show notes of every single episode I put out. So look forward to continuing to provide great conversations. And thank you all for your continued support. Pete, like Matt Brack and I do the same thing. We start talking for like 20 minutes before we record, and we get all this good stuff, but we didn't get it. We didn't because so it didn't happen, right? You and I weren't talking for the last 20 minutes about some of these authors. Well, here, share some of these authors that we were just discussing.
Well, I was talking about William Peter Blatty, who wrote The Exorcist, The Exorcist Part 3, which is also titled Legion. You can find a director's cut of that via. You can find it on some of the APK sites, and then he also did the Ninth Configuration, which he called his trilogy of faith. But the interesting thing about him was that he was in Army psych warfare, and when he decided to get out of Army psych warfare, he like leaves this unit that was probably where they were probably studying everything from like the occult and supernatural phenomena, probably where a lot of maybe the ideas for MK Ultra came out of. And he decides to write books and tell the world that demons exist and that demon possession is real. And at the same time, that he was in there was a I won't call him a gentleman. There was a guy in there named Michael Aquino, who was like the high priest of the Temple of Set. He was in Army psych warfare. And anyone who knows the lore behind like the satanic panic of the 80s, which most of it was overblown and most of it was just myth, but there was, you have to maybe sometimes come to the opinion that because of truth, things that were happening that were true, they will invent all sorts of things that were untrue and to try to hide what the truth is. And anyone who's ever looked into Michael Aquino and looked into what people were saying were happening at the Presidio in San Francisco in the 1980s when he was there, apparently there was obviously witchcraft. There were also stories of children disappearing, child sacrifice, human sacrifice happening. And I just think it's very interesting that both of these people came out of the same thing, except one, William Peter Blatty, who I think his mother was a Lebanese Catholic and he was raised extremely Catholic, comes out of this and decides to reveal to the world that demon possession is real through fiction, which many people do. Many smart people write fiction to expose what they see as truth in the world. And then you have the Michael Aquinos of the world who just decides to take it and go all the way and participate in some of the most heinous stuff, allegedly. Well, I mean, he's dead, so I don't think he can sue me, but maybe his family can. Allegedly, stuff that would make the Epstein stuff look tame in comparison.
What did you
Not to downplay the Epstein stuff. So,
what did you call that from the 80s? What was that? What was that period called? The
satanic panic. It was a time when there was the McMartin preschool scandal. There was the Franklin scandal in Franklin. I think it was Nebraska, which turned out to be real, which was child trafficking. That turned out to actually be real too, and yeah, there was a lot of things were going on in the 80s that were rather interesting, coinciding with Reagan presidency and the rise of the moral majority becoming political. There were a lot of interesting stuff there. I've covered it with my friend Dexter De La Paz from the Timeline Earth podcast. We did an episode a few years ago talking about the satanic panic, which he's looked into. And there were just, you were constantly being bombarded with Satan worship and things like that, which, I mean, apparently happens, but there there were a lot of reports of things happening that couldn't be confirmed, or maybe they did happen and they were just hidden. That wouldn't be shocking considering all we know. But yeah, that was an interesting time, and I'm old enough to have lived through it. But you know, in growing up in New York City, you really didn't get a lot of that. That was more like gossip and things you'd hear your parents talking about at the time. It wasn't something that we were inundated with, like I'm sure people who were in Protestant churches and evangelical churches were getting slammed with at the time.
Well, also though, do you think it was easier to hide or conceal back then than it is today?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously, it's really hard for people to conceal stuff nowadays. I mean, just look at everything that's happening with Israel. I mean, this isn't the first time Israel has done this. They've done it before, but you just don't have it streamed in real time, on the internet. That's a really good question. You wonder, when you only have three, when you have ABC, CBS, and NBC, you only have three stations, and you have a couple local stations. It would be easy to hide. But also, I mean, I think it's easy to hide things in plain sight nowadays, too. I think that people there's so much that you're being inundated with, so much that it's hard to just concentrate on everything. I have people bring stuff up to me all the time. They're like, have you been following this? I mean, this is huge. And I'm like, no, there's too much. I just can't keep up with it all,
Do you have topics where people come to you and they like broach it with you where you're like, no, man, I don't have time. Like, I'm not interested in that. Like somebody asked me about Macron's wife. I said, I don't care about that. That's fine if people want to talk about it, but you go ahead. Do you have that certain no-go zone where you're like, I got other stuff I'm paying attention to right now?
Yeah, there's stuff I don't want to talk about just because it's, you see so many other people covering it, and it's like, well, why? Why do you really need my opinion on it? I mean, I read books about World War II. It's like, why do you want my opinion on, whether Macron's wife is a one thing that I've been like, I had people attacking me and shitting on me because I'm not covering this whole Palantir thing. And yeah, I don't know if we talked about it last time I was on, but I was writing blog posts about Palantir and calling into radio shows in like 2007, 2008, talking about Palantir.
You said that to me. Not to interrupt you. You said that you go. This isn't new. Like people are just waking up now to Palantir, like it was a LLC formed last week.
Yeah. Well, and another thing is too, if it's being reported by CNN, if CNN and MSNBC and like the mainstream media are covering it, shouldn't that tell you something?
This episode is brought to you by Vaulted, launched by McIlvaney Financial Group. The simplest and most affordable way to own physical gold and silver. Physical gold is the only asset outside of the control of the government and banking system. They can print dollars, but they can't print gold. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to vaulted.blbvux.net/coffeeandamike.
I mean, like, if it was this big thing, regime media wouldn't be covering it. Because this isn't like, I could see if it was like only exclusive to the Trump administration and they wanted to attack it like Russiagate or something like that. This has been going on for 20 years. It's like now CNN, MSNBC are covering it. It seems kind of odd that they want you. And I mean, I've like had people like say I'm a gatekeeper on Palantir and I must be taking Teal money because I don't want to talk about it. And it's like, first of all, yeah, Teal money. Looks like it, huh?
So it's buried in the backyard, right?
1940 farmhouse. Yeah.
It's buried in the backyard.
Yeah, yeah. Second of all, it's like I've been over this 20 years ago screaming about this. And honestly, I don't want to cover something that like like literally screaming about Palantir right now to me is like if you jumped on the Russiagate bandwagon in like 2017, 2018. It's like, well, what? Rachel Maddow is literally talking about this every day. Shouldn't that tell you something? Do you trust her? Do you trust anyone on TV? People on TV are talking about something and you've now glommed onto it. Maybe you've bought into something. Because, I mean, the Palantir thing is like, that was over. That was dead and gone and solved and decided 15 years ago. How are you going to fight it? What are you going to do? What are you going to just get rid of all electronics? And we've talked about this before. People who think like, oh, I'm somehow going to be private. This thing's listening to me right now. I mean, everyone knows this. You go on social media, anyone who, and you can delete Facebook and it doesn't change anything. But if you talk about something, you'll get ads for it on Facebook if you go on Facebook. Oh, well, don't go on Facebook. Okay, just because you're going on Facebook doesn't mean they're not still listening to you. They hear everything. I literally have gotten to the point where I won't say anything in the privacy of my own home that I suspect the FBI or whomever is hearing everything I'm saying. I don't know I bought this computer last month. I don't know that it's not beaming directly into intelligence or into some server farm somewhere and all the metadata is being collected. I assume it is. What are you going to do? Complain about it? Oh, he gives you something to talk about in your podcast, gives you something to talk about on social media so you can be based around your friends. Oh, I see what Alex Karp and Peter Thiel are doing, and you're not talking about it. It's a foregone conclusion. Move on. There's other things that you're just going to, here, how about this? Get a bunch of your friends elected, if you think it's such a big deal, get a bunch of your friends elected to Washington, D.C., and then you can destroy Palantir. Like there's not another 5 Palantirs out there doing things that you don't know about. Shut up. Shut up.
Well, that's where, maybe you're not hearing as much. Last year was more the Civil War talk. Remember all that, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, anyone who sees a clip from, if 3 clips from Tim Pool scroll by in your Twitter feed, you're going to hear about Civil War. Oh, there's a Civil War coming, and I honestly believe there's a Civil War coming. Just don't believe it's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know that it's going to happen. I believe it's going to be something that eventually will happen, but it's not going to be like the whole country is warring with each other. There'll be little pockets of things happening here and there. And, it'll be, I mean, how could it not? We literally had a precursor for a civil war in 2020 in the streets. I mean, people died. I mean, what was it? 40 people were murdered in the streets in 2020. No one wants to talk about that, but it's going to happen. I mean, everybody's like, I think USAID has done a great job of defunding a lot because you see people shutting down all over the place. So I think that's why Colbert got fired. It's probably because they were being funded. But to think that these trillions of dollars that are missing haven't been squirreled away by these NGOs to continue funding these, what's going to be color revolutions, and a color revolution is going to lead to civil wars. Now, you redefine it. What is a civil war? Normally, a civil war is going to be fighting I think originally a civil war was uh, factions within a country fighting for control of the country. I think recently, I think Mike Shelby talked about how civil war has been redefined to be if the government of a country is going to be fighting against factions within that country. Say, one of the states decides that they want to break away or something like that, and you'll have one state fighting against the federal government. And so it won't have to be a fight over control of Washington, D.C., which our Civil War wasn't even about. The South should have sacked Washington, D.C., and gotten all the way to Canada and burned everything to the fucking ground. That's the way they would have won, and that's the way our country would probably be a hell of a lot better right now if they would have done. Fucking North. And I could say this as a Northerner. Fuck them. Never go. I don't even like going up there. But yeah, it's not really, a civil war is going to be something different. I mean, I see a civil war in the future, but the way people talk about a civil war is just basically for clicks to get people to listen. And then, how do you describe this civil war? That's what I want to hear. I want to hear how somebody is describing what a civil war would look like. A civil war to me would be like Texas decides to secede from the Union, or do a soft secession or something. And let me tell you something. Fort Hood, which is an hour up the highway from the state capital of Texas, there's a reason Fort Hood is an hour up the highway from the state capital of Texas. Because if Texas decides, oh, we're going to secede one day, well, they're just going to put tanks onto, I can't remember what highway it is. I used to know the number, and just roll right down to Texas, to the capital, and stop it. There'll be some fighting. That would literally be a civil war, because you'd have federal troops fighting against, either the state troops or even militias. But no one's talking about that. It's always some nebulous thing about how, oh, there's going to be a civil war. Well, what do you define your terms? How's this going to happen? What's going to kick it off?
The ones that I hear are, if Palantir, you're going to go after Peter Thiel, you're going to go after Elon Musk or Bezos or so on and so forth, or if Obama doesn't get arrested, and I'm like, okay, so you're going to take your gun, just be hypothetical here, you're going to take your gun, you're going to go down to the capital, whatever state you're in, and then what? Like, what are you going to do?
Look, Mike, some of us don't run marathons like you. Okay. I pick up my rifle, which weighs 7 pounds, and I march down the street about a breath, about halfway down the street. Okay. That's most Americans who own guns. I've been to gun ranges. I was at a gun show this past weekend. All right. It's not how that would happen. People need to put that shit out of their head. That's why you have it. Everybody's like, oh, considering how many guns Americans have, it should be a civil war by now. And I'm talking about a 7-pound rifle, not even considering you're gonna have some kind of rig where you're gonna have extra magazines, which you're gonna. Please stop. Please stop. You're not going to do anything about Palantir. You're not going to do anything about Bill Gates. You're not going to do anything. You're going to do what you always do. You're going to vote for somebody who you think is going to be your hero. That's like Trump, who turned out to be, what he was in the first term, Israel's bitch.
I asked Dr. Jones, Dr. E. Michael Jones, about this question. I don't think I worded it right, so hopefully
that was a good interview.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't word the question right, I don't think. So let me see if I can correct it for you. All this stuff that's getting out now, it's not a secret any longer. You have people on the mainstream that are talking about Gaza, and they're talking about Netanyahu, and not in a positive light. Do you think that's happening intentionally, or they just can't keep a lid on it any longer?
Both. It's impossible to keep a lid on it any longer. Look, no matter what you say about Americans, and there are a section of Americans who are willing to excuse mass murder on a scale total war, basically, uh, on a scale because they're either brainwashed by Schofieldism and dispensational theology, and they go to these big mega churches where obviously, apparently, if Benjamin Netanyahu isn't supported, Jesus isn't going to come back. Um, I'm only being partly hyperbolic, but I also think that there are people out there, and E. Michael Jones has actually made this pointed this out before. I think there are factions who are fighting behind the scenes. I think that I do agree with E. Michael Jones to a certain extent that you have a WASP, Protestant, Catholic, and Jewish war right now going on. I think the Catholic one is overblown. I don't think. I think Catholicism is very. I don't know. As a Catholic, I just don't see this. I know a lot of Catholics who are very, very much, the country needs to turn more back to God. But these aren't people, for the most part, who want the country to be expect the country to be Catholic. But I think WASPs, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants like Tucker Carlson, Douglas McGregor, people like that. I think they see this country as their heritage. They see it as theirs, and I think they're sick of this. I think they're sick of the Israel having a foreign policy that basically just leads us around by the nose and starts wars that, here's a good thing to do. Ask any AI program. I use Grok mostly. Say, how many combat troops has Israel have fought? How many Israeli combat troops have fought with America in their terror wars? Answer only with a number. Because if you don't put answer only with a number, Grok is going to be like, oh, they've supported in this way and that way and this way and that way. No. Answer just with a number, Grok, so we can see that zero. I think people just know more and more, but I don't believe that. I believe that people can do certain things and they can influence certain things when elites ask for it. I think you've seen Trump change his mind on certain things because people have chimped out on Twitter. Now, whether that is actually being changed in the background or is just paying lip service, don't know. Hard to know. Because, like the whole tariffs thing, how are we going to know that even works? It's going to take a while. It's like people expect to see things happen overnight. Well, that's not how this works. It's going to take a while. Things need to play out. Things need to shift. But I think that there is a WASP faction that is like, we want our country back. I had Daryl Cooper. I'm not saying Daryl Cooper identifies as a WASP or anything, but he was recently talking about Epstein on Tucker's show, almost 3 hours. A few days before that, I had him on my show, and we talked about the historic Jewish question, basically what the Jewish question trademark, and that's been something that people have been talking about for hundreds of years, and I still, it's gone through many iterations, but my Jewish question now is, okay, so like, if you talk about Jews and you criticize Jews, they say, well, you're just jealous because Jews are successful. And my question is, they're very open about the fact that, Biden's cabinet was 70% Jewish. Is that success that I should be jealous of? Hollywood, they've written books. Jews have written books about how they control Hollywood. Is that been good for us? Banking, I mean, there are Times of Israel will say in one article that saying that Jews control banking is an anti-Semitic trope, and then they'll praise Jews for controlling banking all over the world. Is that good for us? Is Israel being our greatest ally? Is that good for us? So, I posed I think the new Jewish question is all of this Jewish influence good for us? And I say no. And Daryl didn't go down the road with me of, running all the way down that road, but he said it was a great question and needed to be addressed. And he reiterated everything I said about percentages in the Biden White House. And now, look, I mean, they surround Trump. Jeffrey Epstein's next door neighbor is behind Trump in pictures all the time now. But Daryl said something in there he said basically since the 1970s we're a Jewish society. Basically, we're Jews completely pretty much run everything. And they don't run everything, but Jews run everything. It's not the Jews. It's not every Jew. I mean, that's retarded. It's like people tell me all the time, oh, you just hate Jews. I'm like, I hate Jewish power. I don't like organized Jewry. There are a lot of Jews I like, that I get along with really well and are still very friendly with me, even some of the things I say. But, the question is this good for us? And I think a lot of WASPs, people whose families have been here since the founding and before the founding are asking the same question. And I think that, there are some obvious ones out there that I don't want to single out and name who I think are going hard at not only Israel, but organized Jewish power. And I think that adds to it. I think that you can see a bunch of people, masses of people. I think the ADL recently said that 47% of the world, it used to be 25% of the world you can consider to have anti-Semitic views. Now it's something like 47%. What do you think it's going to take for that number to go down? Normally, that doesn't happen. What are you going to do? You're going to pass laws that saying things that a group of people in robes decide are anti-Semitic, that's going to cause it to go down? Do you think you're going to threaten the citizenship of people who've lived here whose families have been here for 400 or 500 years, for 400 years? Do you think that's going to cause anti-Semitism to go down? Do you think just like literally leveling a whole section of the world right next to your own, that's basically in your own country, and shooting people as they show up just playing target practice with human beings as they're showing up to collect food, and then saying, oh, they were human shields, or oh, they were Hamas, or someone like Joel Berry, who was saying after a Catholic church gets bombed that every Catholic in Gaza supports Hamas, which basically what that translated, that means that Joel Berry is saying it's open season on every Catholic in Gaza. It's okay to kill them because that's what you want to, you want to kill Hamas, right? I mean, we're at such a fucked up place in this society. And so much of it revolves around this one group's organized power. Again, not all of them. It's always been a tiny cadre. I know my Jewish history. That people, not only are people, it's all anecdotal. The amount of people who I had someone contact me and go, I could never talk to my mom about Jewish power. And then the day after the Daryl Cooper thing on Epstein drops, my mom calls me and goes, I think there's something wrong with supporting Israel. All right, well, you don't think that's happening everywhere? And what happens when people retreat from that? Elites, WASP elites and non-Jewish elites are going to look at that and go, well, I've been scared up until now to say anything or, move in a direction against something, organized Jewish power. But maybe now, I'll have the people behind me. Maybe now we could get some people elected who will talk about this. Maybe now, I'm not saying it's going to happen in my lifetime, but I think it's interesting that in 1998 was really the first time that I started reading articles about organized Jewish power, like the history of it. And I thought to myself, there's no way in my lifetime anyone is ever publicly going to talk about these things. And then you have people on the biggest podcasts in the world talking about it. And so maybe I'm thinking, yeah, this won't happen in my lifetime. Maybe it will. I don't know. But I mean, you can't, once you lose the public, powerful people will see that and they're going to hop onto it. They're going to hop on and they're going to be like, yeah, now's the time to take our power back, like Public Enemy would say.
Well, even 2 or 3 years ago, I wouldn't have imagined we'd be talking about this like we are now. You would have been, but I mean, I'm newer to this. Obviously, you've been doing this a long time, and you're much more well versed than I am. But I had Ron Unz on a couple of years ago, but that back then, I mean, those are the two like regular, consistent people I had on here that would talk about these things. But now, to your point, where on the more massive scale, it's being discussed.
There are events that happen in history that basically turn the tide of public opinion. World War II, obviously, is one of them. Vietnam War, definitely one of them. 9/11, definitely one of them. I said right after October 7th, I said, we have just, this is going to usher in a spirit of a new age. And all Israel had to do was continue to do what they've done for centuries. We're the victim here. We're the victim. All they had to do was appeal to the international community and say, tell us what can we do with these people next to us who are murdering us, who are crossing over and killing people who are at raves. And what can we do? We're the victim here. No. Anyone who knows their history, they've done what they've always done when they get a little bit of power. They've gone too far. And you can't just start murdering civilians and children and women and expect that, and I'm one of these people who I'm able to step back and take morality completely out of it. I think it's wrong, of course. But I also study war. And I tried to study war in the past without emotion. Because when you study, it's so easy to, that's what they want you to do now. When you talk about World War II, people get emotional. If you talk about World War I, people are like, that probably shouldn't have happened. War to end all wars. Treaty of Versailles went too far. Yeah. But if you say, oh, we shouldn't have got into World War I, people will listen to you and they'll be like, no, we needed to get into it. They can't even tell you who started World War I, how it started. They'll tell you about some guy getting assassinated, Archduke Ferdinand. Okay, sure, whatever. But you're not going to say that about World War II or do what I do. Yeah, we decided to fight on the side of a country that had already murdered 10 million of their own civilians. Like in open graves, just boom, 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 boom. 10 million. Yeah. The cognitive dissonance, you just, we had to choose one over the other, did we? Did we? We had to choose, huh? So basically what war turned into was now it's all a morality play. And everyone, Hamas is Hitler, Putin is Hitler, Assad is Hitler. Everyone is the personification of evil. And all All they needed to do was sit back and play the victim card and appeal to the international community about what to do with these people. And if they would have just played it like, just all they needed to do was just, this person was dead. This person was killed. This person had their whole life ahead of them. This person, they could have played this insane propaganda game. But they did the same thing they did in 1648, in Poland, Ukraine. They got a little bit of power. They started killing people. Innocent people, people who didn't do anything, people who were just sitting around. Just started killing people, calling them the enemy. Our Messiah is coming. We're going to get ready to take over the world, yada, yada, yada. You need people like Khmelnytsky and his Cossacks to come in and put these people down. Well, they didn't have their own government. They didn't have nukes. Now they have all that. October 7th changed everything because people got to see what many people, Henry Ford, Charles Lindbergh, Tsar Nicholas, Alexander III, all these people in history have known. Most Jews are good people. Organized Jewry cannot be allowed to operate. This is what you're going to get. You're going to get this country where borders are, thrown wide open by Emanuel Seller, Jewish, who also went to, in 1948, went and banged on the Resolute desk and told Harry Truman that he would drive him out of Washington, D.C. if he didn't sign off on Israel and acknowledge Israel as a legal entity, because a congressman from the United States cares so much about establishing a foreign nation that has closed borders, mind you, but then 17 years later, he's advocating that the United States throw their borders open to the whole world. I think people are just starting to, this is history. This happens to them all the time. This happened to them so often, but especially if you study the last 200 years, the last 250 years in Russia and Europe and the United States. If you cannot see, if you're blind to organized Jewish power, influence, and money, you don't understand the last 250 years of history. You don't understand the last 2,000 years of history. But this whole Israel thing, this is new. This is something that's less than 80 years old. And it just goes to show that now they have power, they have guns, they have nukes, they have they have the support of the most powerful country in the world. I'm not going to say we're the most powerful country in the history of the world, because the Soviet Union was pretty freaking powerful under Stalin. But I mean, they showed who they really are. How is this not going to happen? It all changed. How you see it, you see it. So many people saw it. I had people contacting me who were like, I stopped listening to your podcast because you were talking too much about Jewish power and organized Jewry. Then after October 7th, and these same people saw how they reacted, I get emails back and go, oh, hey man, I'm back listening. They don't have to say sorry to me. I understand. We've undergone a social engineering regime since World War II that makes us ignore these people. We either have to ignore them and not see what they're doing, or completely support them. That's another thing you saw after October 7th. You couldn't be lukewarm on it. You couldn't say, well, sucks to be you, but, you're not American. That's not America. If you weren't either completely upset, completely, put it this way, if you were completely supporting anything Israel said, they didn't care. If you were completely against Israel, what Israel was doing, Well, they would care. They would support you if you were completely supportive. They'd be like, "Thank you, thank you." If you were against it, they'd be like, if you were completely against it and been like, you know, you've been, you know, abusing these people for 70, 75, 76 years. You know, this was bound to happen. I mean, they'd be upset with you and everything, but you know but they'd really be upset with you if you were just lukewarm on it. I mean, I saw that all the time. I saw people getting attacked, and you really want to make people like notice you, attack them for going, sorry, this is America, and just don't care. Yeah, I mean, not don't care, feel bad for you, but this is happening in countries all over the world. There's countries in Africa where there's, you know, you have an ethnic cleansing a week. Oh, why don't we care about them? It's they pushed it too far. And to think that in this world that they've basically built up, taking over the Frankfurt School, taking over a lot of academia, and basically pushing this narrative that you can't displace people, you can't abuse people, and then doing it themselves. Well, I mean, what was going to happen? And I'm not comparing them to the Nazis. People who do that are fucking retards. They're fucking retarded. This isn't Jews acting like Nazis. This is Jews acting like Jews. Okay? Learn the history. This isn't anything new. They've done this before. Maybe one day we'll just do a whole episode on the Bolshevik Revolution and just exactly how Jewish it was. I'm not saying they were all Jews, but I'm saying the thought leaders, Trotsky, Bronstein, his real name is Bronstein. I mean, this was all inspired. Karl Marx, where did all this come from? I mean, come on. I mean, Ron Unz, you mentioned Ron Unz, who's on your show. He's been on my show. I've talked to him many times. Talked to him off air a few times. He says that Jews, remember, he's Jewish. He says that Jews are the greatest mass murderers of the 20th century. Said they're responsible for the most mass murder in the 20th century, up to 200 million. I'm just repeating what Ron Unz said. Go argue with him. But when I look at the influence that they had, I mean, Mao, the Times of Israel, I have an article saved on my phone from, I think it's from the Times of Israel, where they talk about how 80% of the foreign volunteers that helped Mao get up and running were Jewish. Mao. China. The Orient. If it's only 5, that's 4 of them. Why? Why? How does that number happen when they're 2-3% of the world population? 80% of the people helping Mao, a mass murderer, get up and running? How does that happen? And what? You're not allowed to bring this up because World War II? Sorry. I don't hate you. Don't want you having anything to do with the governance or the running of the country. That's it. We fucking sacrificed to give you your own country. Supported you. This country did. There's evidence that the reason that the Balfour Declaration during World War I, that basically Zionists pushed the United States into the war, that they said, we'll give you the Balfour Declaration, which turned over control of Palestine from the Ottoman Turks to the British, and it was written to Lord Rothschild, that they pushed, and this is, it's well documented now, and this isn't conspiracy theory stuff, that they said, if you get the United States to join into World War I, we'll give you the Balfour Declaration. We'll give you Palestine. Okay, so I'm not allowed to talk about that, even though it's well documented, footnoted everywhere, that there was a secret society called the Parisham that was that was basically run by Harry Callum. Well, I think it was started by Harry Callum. I think that was his name, but it had Louis Brandeis, future Supreme Court Justice, and Felix Frankfurter, future Supreme Court Justice, in it, where it was a secret society where they took oaths to push Zionist interest in the United States. This is 1913. Same year, Federal Reserve, a lot of things happening then. What, I'm supposed to ignore this? And then Joe Biden has 70% of his cabinet is Jewish. 2% of the population has 70%, can draw 70% of his cabinet. And then the guy standing behind Donald Trump was Jeffrey Epstein's next door neighbor and allegedly bought the townhouse off him. What? Sorry, I'm not going to stop talking about this. I mean, and October 7th is what opened this up. It opened it up. And it wasn't even October 7th. Like I said, they could have sat back and done what they've always done. Woe is us. We never do anything and we get attacked out of nowhere. Oh my God. It's not like we were revolutionaries in Russia and tried to overthrow the government in 1905. And then when everybody fought back against us, we screamed pogrom. Oh, that wasn't, we're always the victim. But you went too far this time. And now people are starting to see everything. Sorry. This is just history. History doesn't repeat itself. But there are certain patterns that take place. And this is just a pattern that we've seen for 2,000 years, but especially in the last 250 years.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
that was a long rant, man.
No, it was good. I've always said, I probably said it to you and I've said it to other people on here. You cannot tell me that they did not know about October 7th. You cannot put an event like that together in a week. I mean, I've talked to military people. I mean, it's a wall. There's camera. I mean, they were able to infiltrate the supply chain to decapitate Hezbollah. And you're going to tell me that they didn't know what was going on there? I just don't believe it. But we can't ask those questions. You can't talk. I mean, why did we get into this space to begin with? Was to ask questions and be objective. Doesn't mean I have people on that are wrong. I'm wrong. But I thought that was our job to do that, right?
Well, here's another thing about that. Okay, so that border, quote unquote border is really an odd term because Gaza is technically part of Israel. So it's like, how is that a border? If you have interstate borders, just tell us you have interstate borders. It's really a fence line. They talk up the security around that fence so much that they sell that's a security system. They sell it to other countries. They're telling other countries, oh, look, we have the most secure thing and everything. And then they sell it to them for millions and who knows how much money. And then all of a sudden, like one day it fails. Yeah, that's like, did you ever see the first Purge movie?
No.
Oh man, you got to watch at least the first one. The first one and Election Day, because Election Day is just this total like rip on Trump. But it's hilarious if you know how to watch it, if you can watch it for and put aside any kind of biases you have. But in the Purge is basically the whole point is that I think it's one night out of the year, crime has been basically eliminated, but one night out of the year you can go and kill anybody you want. And the main character that they focus on, I forget who the actor. I think it's James Franco plays the main character.
Is it Ethan Hawke in it? Ethan Hawke in it too?
I don't remember. I'm trying to remember, but I think the James Franco character was the one who like designed the security system that he sold for millions to all the rich people so that they'd be perfectly fine. And it was like bulletproof on Purge night. And then it turns out that yeah, it's not bulletproof at all. You know, so he's sold all this, made all this money and everything, and he can't even this. He doesn't even have a system that can keep his house safe. Well, that's Israel. Oh, you mean they built something that was subpar, told you that it was high quality, and then sold it to you for millions upon millions? I know I'm shocked. Um, you know, and then they talk about the Iron Dome, like, oh, uh, repellent. It's like the Iron Dome is basically designed to stop bottle rockets from coming from Gaza and the West Bank. I mean, you saw what Iran did to the Iron Dome. Last I heard, I listened to a channel from an Israeli, and he said that like 10,000 families were homeless after that assault on Tel Aviv. Yeah, I mean, either they allowed that to happen, knew it was going to happen. I mean, we know that Netanyahu, the only reason he keeps these wars going is because he's going to be put on trial and probably thrown in jail. But every time there's an emergency, you know, basically his trial stops. And yeah, I mean, if you wanted this to happen, if all these defenses go down, I know Ronan says he doesn't believe that it was a false flag. If you want these defenses to go down, the only question is, how do you play it afterwards? And like I already said, they could have just done like they always do and play the victim. But, you know, it's kind of hard to hide the things that you're doing in Gaza. Are you familiar with the Telegram channel 72 Virgins?
No, I need to add it.
No, I think it's been taken down already. 72 Virgins was this channel that came up that was exposing the horrors that were happening in Gaza. Very explicit. Dead children, dead bodies, dead humans burning. I mean, the worst stuff you've ever seen in your life. And it was sold as a channel that was, you know, being uploaded by people in Gaza, you know, residents of Gaza, to show the world what was happening. IDF soldiers were the ones uploading this. It was Israelis who were putting this up. Why did they start a channel to show their atrocities? I'm asking you a question. I don't know. When it got exposed that, you know, and this isn't a conspiracy theory. This has been, people can Google this, even on Google, maybe use DuckDuckGo. Why were they showing the world their own crimes? What did they have to benefit from that? Did they think that, like, if they faked it by saying it was Muslims who were doing it, or it was Hamas who was doing it, or it was Gazans who were doing it, that the world would think less of Gazans because they were showing the world what was happening? Why would they do this? This is what I get back to all the time. It's like, if they'll do that, and I don't understand why they would do that. Why do you want them in charge of anything? Why are you saying that they're successful, and that if I talk about them, I'm jealous of their success? I'm not. I'm jealous of people who can speed read, because I'm a slow reader, and I love to read books. That's who I'm jealous of. People who can speed read. I'm jealous of people who can, you know, shoot a tight group from 25 yards with a handgun. I'm jealous of people who have like a better backyard than I am. Not so much that I'll go and like burn their backyard down, but it's like, it makes me strive to have a better backyard. I'm not jealous of people who like incinerate children and then post the videos up and then pretend it's not them. And then when they get exposed, they don't explain why they did it. Yeah, there's something really wrong. There's something real, maybe this will take us in a totally new direction, but there's something very spiritually wrong in the world right now. And I don't think people see it. My friend Stormy and I, we did hours, an episode called Reality Isn't What You Think It Is. We were basically talking about metaphysics in the spiritual world and saying spirituality sounds like you're wearing clothes from Hot Topic and you have dyed black hair and you're lighting candles in your room. But there's something, it's hard once you understand the spiritual world and just how at one time everyone on the believed in a spirit world, believed that there were polytheists, there were monotheists, there were the monotheists were much less abundant. I think we're spiritually sick. I think it's way too easy. Put it this way: if we're not spiritually sick, and we put up with what's happening, the stuff that's in our face, and the only reason I talk about concentrate on Israel and international Jewry and organized Jewry is because they have such a big influence on our country. If it was, I also talk about China and the influence China has on our country, and Chinese come here. If Biden's cabinet was 70% Chinese, do you think people would be asking questions? And the only reason they're not asking questions about the 70% of Jews in Biden's cabinet is because we've been told that, if we, there's going to be a Holocaust if we start talking about that, or it's rude. But I think you have two choices when you look at the way, at least a lot of Americans are dealing with the Israel issue and the organized Jewry issue, is either they're spiritually sick or they're mentally sick. And I have a hard time believing that mental illness is that prevalent, because you'd have to be mentally ill to find out that a group of people was incinerating children and posting the videos themselves and be like, oh no, that's okay, because if I don't support them, Jesus won't come back.
And to even cheer on death is just vile to me. Even if you don't even pay attention, you're a Fox News casual person. You know how many boomers attacked me? I put a post up on Facebook the night of the bombs in Iran, and I said, I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember exactly what I wrote, but I said something like, Trump lost his presidency, how could you support this, blah blah blah. And people push back on me, boomers too. And I'm gonna bring this up, and I get emails every time I say anything bad about boomers. I get shit for this. And I'm not saying all boomers, but there's a
right. Well, it's the same thing with Jews. Yeah, it's the same thing with Jews. It's like you say organized Jewry, and people think, oh, you're talking about my dentist. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who he gives his money to. I don't know what he supports, but I'm assuming he's probably just maybe a normal guy who just, wants to grill too. I don't know. But the whole boomer thing, yeah. I mean, I same thing happens to me. I know some based ass boomers, but for the most part, we know that boomers are like the most entitled generation. It's just, I've never seen a generation who was like so openly saying that they're not going to leave their children anything, and so openly like, you know, just so accepting of, and granted, they bought into all of the post-war stuff, all of the post-war social engineering that happened. They bought into hook, line, and sinker. But you can get educated. I didn't always think the way I did, way I do. I didn't always have the knowledge I have on World War II and things like that. I had the typical line of, Germany bad, Japan bad. They just all went crazy one day and started killing people. Sure, okay, yeah, yeah. But you know what? Boomers have no excuse for staying to the post-war consensus and what they've been socially engineered with. I mean, it's not like you have access to all the information the world has ever had, like in the palm of your hand. It's not like you can't I mean, how many books I have on here? It's not like you can't find out. It's not like when you come home at night from doing whatever the fuck you're doing, and you go online and you open up that search engine and you look to see what the next fucking cruise you want to go on is, that you couldn't go on a fucking website like Institute for Historical Review and start reading about what really led up to World War II, or what really led up to World War One. But no, just go to Carnival or whomever, whatever frigging cruise line is your favorite, and just go. Just go.
Because they just got
Just
home from
go.
happy hour, Pete, and they also, if they're not looking for their next cruise, they're figuring out where they're golfing tomorrow, and they'll come home and watch Fox, and then criticize people like me and you because your generation doesn't understand. And that's why fucking people don't want to listen to you anymore. I mean, I had somebody literally respond back to me, "Oh, I bet you wish all boomers would die." I go, "You're kidding me, right? This is what you're coming back to me with because I'm asking you a question."
That's a typical response that Jews give you when you criticize the behavior, their politics, I mean, the World Jewish Congress putting out a video taking credit for feminism, the Civil Rights Act, all the things that basically have destroyed our society. But I mean, it's like, boomers just have to choose. Here, choose one. You have to give up one, boomers. You have to give up your Social Security, your cruises, or your Asian wife. Choose one. Boomers are like they're the biggest meme in like the history of they're a meme generation. Like it's so easy to predict what they're going to say next, what their opinion is on a certain thing. I mean, it's remarkable. Let me add trike. You're going to have to give up your trike too. Which one are you going to get rid of, boomer? I mean, look, I have boomers in my life that I fucking love.
Me too.
I have boomer listeners who teach me, who send me stuff where I learn, and I love them.
Well, that's because you listen, Pete. That's because not to cut you off, but that's because you listen.
Well, and I want to learn. If I'm wrong about something, I want my mind changed. Give me something. But it's also, I'll have boomers who will be like, they'll look at organized Jewish power and they'll be like, oh yeah, I get what you're saying there. And then I'll say something about boomers and they'll be like, oh, you're including them all. So you're okay with me talking about organized Jewish power where it's very easily mistaken that I'm talking about every single Jew on the planet. And yet when I talk about boomers, you have to, now all of a sudden it becomes every single one. Come on. We know that blacks are, despite being 13% of the population, do 55 to 60% of the violent crime in this country. It doesn't mean that doesn't mean that most of the blacks in your town are doing that. Yeah, it's actually a really, really small percentage, which is fucking horrifying unto itself. Stop. Stop. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and go, well, at the same time that Germany invaded Poland, from the west, Russia was invading it from the east. Does that mean that all of Germany invaded Poland? Does that mean that all of Russia was invading, or are we using? Do I have to qualify everything that comes out of my mouth, or can I use generalizations like most people use? Oh, I don't like my family. I hear people say that all the time. I don't get along with my family. Well, you probably have some cousins. Oh yeah, me and my cousin are best friends. I'm fine with somebody saying they don't like their whole family, because I understand they're not talking about every single person in their family. But when you talk about the people you've been socially engineered into, can't criticize them, and then boomers. When did boomers become a protected class? Jeez, what the hell happened?
And so sensitive too. I can't wait. I guarantee you I'm going to get an email. I'll forward it to you. Maybe next time we talk, I'll read it on there. I'll read it on here because it's just so funny to me. Guaranteed. I like your show, but I just can't get over the fact, the boomers and your just, criticism of them.
I had a boomer that was supporting me on Substack, and I had one of those, like on my live stream, I went off on boomers for a couple minutes, and he commented to me, "I'm not supporting you anymore. Go insult boomers. You're not going to insult boomers on my dime," or something like that. And I'm like, that's literally one of the most boomer things you could say. It's like if there's any boomerism out there, it's like, it's like this person had, and I always do this when somebody complains and they're like a paid supporter. I will say they paid a year in advance for a subscription or something. I will refund them, even if it's the 11th month and it renews next. I will refund them the whole year, just so they know it isn't about the money, because apparently it's all about the money to them. It's like, come on, guys, come on, fucking lighten up, grow a pair, get some thick skin. You want to talk about, how, our generation and how much we had to go through. No, you're the most privileged generation. You bought a fucking house in 1971 for $20,000, and then you sold it 20 years later for $300,000. But do you think you're so fucking smart because of that? Are you fucking kidding me? It's like, how many people are buying a house now? Say you buy a house for $300,000. How many people are expecting that house to be worth $1 million in 20 years? Are you fucking retarded? You just happened to buy a house right before we went off the gold standard, and then inflation went through the roof, and you got all this inflationary money. Go fuck yourself if you think that you're something special. Oh, I worked a job for this long, and I got the gold watch and everything. Who cares? Shut up. Well, jeez, it's like.
Well, and the thing about it is, it's not their fault. It's the timing, right? But also look at the younger generation today and what they're having to go through. First of all, the idea of owning a house now is basically gone. I'm probably the first part of that generation, because I don't own a house, where it doesn't make sense. And the younger people, the ones that choose to go to college and they get out and they have to move back in with their parents, or maybe their parents provide financing for that first down payment, and to compare that period to now, I don't think it's fair. And again, it's not their fault, but listen to these young people, to what they're going through. I was not a good listener at one point, and maybe that's why I started this show, to be better at it. But I make it a point now when I do talk to somebody in their early mid-20s, just to listen, to see what's going on as best I can through their mind.
Well, I mean, also, look, they didn't fight feminism. They didn't fight against feminism hard enough. They didn't fight against woke hard enough. They didn't fight against political correctness hard enough. They didn't fight the wars. They cheered on the wars because we're going to Iraq because Saddam Hussein's going to fucking bomb us.
Good
I'm
guys,
talking
bad
about
guys.
1990.
Good guys,
Yeah,
bad guys.
1991 too. You didn't fight any of that. You fucking cheered it on. You know, you don't care about any of this stuff. George W. Bush, I remember this, goes on the fucking radio in 2003 and says, it is a human right for every American to own a home. Is it? Is it? What the fuck are you talking about? That's fucking retarded. They probably cheered that on. That's right. Home ownership. Home ownership is a natural right. It's a human right. And then all this fucking bullshit that just came, all this stuff in the last 40 or 50 years that popped up that you didn't fight back on. Now we're fighting back on stuff, and you want to call us racist and anti-Semite. Go fuck yourself. Try to clean your shit up. Jeez, man. Fucking people are retarded. I mean, you didn't do anything. All you did was sit there and talk about how, oh, look how hard I'm working this 8-hour day. Oh my God. Oh, yeah, I'm going to work at AT&T, and you know, look at what his stocks are just going through the roof, and it's like going through one of the greatest financial and artificially financial times ever. And while you're counting your money and watching your friggin' 401k or your whatever retirement account you have go up, the culture around you is being destroyed. Basically, perpetual war is being instituted, and organized Jewry is taking over. And you did nothing to fight against it. You did nothing to stop it. You just kept counting your fucking money. And now, those of us who like see this and are like, okay, well, now we have to fix this. Now you're going to come after us and call us racist, and when we criticize you for not standing up for us, and you know, making the future better for your fucking grandkids you don't care about. Really, I mean, some of you are great. I fucking love, you know, the ones who I know, you know who I love, but on the whole, man, oh my God, it's fucking insufferable. And you wonder why Gen Xers like myself were fucking nihilists for so long. So long. I'm not a nihilist anymore, but it took a lot to get out of that. But I understand why people are nihilists. Because you just didn't care. Oh, well, look how successful I am. Yeah, but everything fell apart around you socially and culturally. And now you just basically live in a financialized society. You live in now it's an open air strip mall. You didn't fight anything in the 1980s in the 90s when all manufacturing was being sent overseas. You didn't do anything about that. Oh, fuck you.
I was driving through all that, you know, on my trip, and you, I mean, you know, Northeast Ohio. You've spent time in that area, and I mean, where I'm from, and man, you just see just the hollowed out of middle class. I was in Rochester, first time I'd ever been there. I went downtown, and you could tell. And I drove through Buffalo to get there because, you know, from Cleveland you go through 90 through Erie, and you could tell that Rochester at one point that was a Rust Belt special place. There's nothing there. Some restaurants, churches, hollowed out.
Everybody sees my last name and they're just like, oh, you know, Spanish, you know, or Mexican. I get called Mexican because everyone with a Spanish last name is Mexican. My mother's family is from Western Pennsylvania. They're not Spanish at all. They're all from like the old Austro-Hungarian Empire. They're Western Pennsylvania, coal mines, factories. They don't have those jobs aren't there anymore. They're not even there. So many of them left. I mean, some of them, they've had houses long enough that they own them, you know, and they're not going to leave them. And you know, it's a lot easier to live a more modest life when you have your house paid off and everything. But you know, it's not like they paid their house off. It was like their parents and grandparents paid the house off, you know, years ago. Oh, so you should be championing that. Yeah, yeah, good. Congratulations. Thanks, boomers. Um, like, yeah, I know all this. And I know where my family came. I've been to Western Pennsylvania, where my family comes from. So more Western Central Pennsylvania, Johnstown area.
I've
I
been to
know
Johnstown.
the
I've been to
whole history.
Johnstown.
Yeah,
I
I
used
know
to
the
live.
whole
I
history
lived
of
in
that.
State College for a few years.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, my family's from like a half hour south of Johnstown. I know that whole area. I know what it used to be. It's not, none of that's there anymore. Where is it? Well, I mean, somewhere else. Not here. No one you didn't fight to stop that from happening. And I'm not saying it's all your fault. No, I'm not saying it's all the boomers' fault. I'm just saying now that people are trying to fix it and make life better for the people who are going to come after us, we're like some of us are actually going to care about the people who come after us. I don't have any kids, but I have friends who have kids. I have nephews. I have nieces and nephews. I want the world to be fucking perfect for them. I mean, not perfect. I know it can't be perfect, but I want it to be a lot better than this. That's what I'm fighting for. And it's going to be, and it's hard work because it's been so fucked up. All right. So some of the shit that we're going to say and some of the shit that is going to sound hyperbolic, but no, it's true. We've been occupied by a force that needs to be dealt with. And the way you deal with it is, I mean, now it's education and hoping some elites come along. And I think there are. We've already talked about some elites that are fighting back against this occupation. And that's the way we go forward. Because these occupiers don't care about us. They don't care about Americans. They don't consider them. They can tell you all day that they're Americans, but they're not. Because if they get caught in a crime, they're going to, if they get charged with a crime, they're going to escape to another country that's not going to extradite them or is going to make it really, really, really hard to extradite them. I don't have anywhere else to go. I don't have anywhere to go hide in the world. This is the only place I know. We're under an occupation. And that is what we're addressing. And when you're addressing it, the occupiers who have been occupying for a long time have brainwashed a lot of you into not being able to see it. So we sound crazy or we sound hateful. Well, it's hard for people who've been socially engineered out of having an identity and being able to organize and being able to identify as a group with other people, because that's hateful. Notice there's only one group that's allowed to, to really identify and support each other. And you're not allowed to criticize them. Well, sorry. It's not going to be easy. It's going to hurt a lot of people's ears and feelings because they have preconceptions that some things shouldn't be said and some people shouldn't be criticized, and that it's rude or it's hateful, or you want to kill them all, like you said with the person saying you want to see all boomers dead. And all we want is to be able to identify, and I think it all comes down to freedom of association. Just be able to associate with the people that you want to associate with, and exclude the others, people that you don't want to be associated with. And apparently that's become hateful in the 20th century made that hateful. And I think it's natural. I think that left alone, people even self-segregate. So
I know we're kind of running out of time, so I'm going to bring this up, and if you need a cut to go, then obviously feel free. But I do want to ask one last question. Do you think the Epstein story is going to go away?
Oh, I don't think it's going to go away. Sorry, frog in throat. Um, I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's going to be they're going to limit hangout. They're going to do a limited hangout on it. They're going to give you. See, I have some theories on exactly what's been happening. I think by this time all the evidence has been altered a lot. I think when the Democrats had control of it, probably some Democrats were written out of it. You know, it's kind of hard too because like Ryan Dawson has a list. You know, they talk about the list. There is no list. I mean, he'd be the worst fucking spy in history if he kept a list in a black book. Um, but Ryan Dawson compiled a list from testimonies that have been given over the years under oath and corroborating testimonies where two people in different parts of the country never met were telling the same story, you know, similar stories about the same people. Um, but I think they've tried to sanitize and get rid of things when Democrats were in office. I think that's probably happened since Trump took office. That they've gone to work to redact and get some people's names taken out of there. Don't know who it is. Don't think it's Trump. If it was, I say I don't think Trump's in there because I think the Democrats would have used that against him a long time ago. But that's not me sticking up for Trump. I think, you know, Rabbi Trump is doing a great job. Great job. But I think that it's too far. It's too out in the zeitgeist. I think that there are too many people who understand, even if they like. I've been talking about an occupation for a while now. There are people who understand that we are controlled by this cabal and that Epstein has something to do with that cabal. Now, some of them won't want to say it's organized Jewry, even though his last name is Epstein and he is surrounded by Jews and all of his money seemed to come from Jews. And everything he did seemed to benefit Jews. But I think that there are people who are like, yeah, this regime needs to be, if we want to put the nail in the coffin in the old regime, we need to get to the bottom of what Epstein was doing and who was being blackmailed there and what. You know, look, I know they were doing inappropriate things with kids, and they should be executed for that. But I first want to find out what they were being blackmailed into doing, because I hear people go, "Oh, they're just being blackmailed into supporting Israel." Fuck you. Some of these people are being blackmailed into committing treason. That's what I want to know. They were being blackmailed into going against not only their own interests, but the country's interests. Fully, I can't be convinced otherwise because there's no reason that this would be hidden for so long. Look, Roman Polanski ran to France when he had sex with a 13-year-old here, and he was accepted back into his community. I don't like it, but I think that some of these people have enough money that they could, if it came out that they were having sex with a 15 or 16-year-old, they could be rehabilitated. No, they've done things that they can't be rehabilitated from. That's what I want to know. That's what's important to me. You know, I don't think people should be having sex with 15 and 16-year-olds. But they were being blackmailed into doing something. And it wasn't just supporting Israel or supporting this. No, these people have private planes. They can fly into executive airports where there's customs doesn't exist. If you ever flown into an executive airport, you know how easy it is to get through it. No. That's why I think it's not going to go away. I think there are a lot of people who, you know, and even beyond the cute-sards, there are a lot of people who see this as, if we can expose this, it basically goes to show what a sham this has been for such a long time.
You think we'll get that at some point?
If we do, it'll be someone of our guys who gets either, gets a job there and just leaks it. it's going to have to be leaked. They're not going to do an official, they're not going to do, oh, here's the official drop of everything we have on it. Because they'll do it through a commission like they did with 9/11. And it'll just all be closed doored. You'll have people who'll come in like George W. Bush and Dick Cheney who will testify without taking, not under oath and stuff. It's going to have to be leaked. So do I think it'll be leaked? Possibly one day. But, like I said, I don't know how much is being changed in there and redacted. And at this point, it's hard to tell even how much we're going to get will actually be true. Because, we have that whole thing where they brought in all the right-wing influencers, all the kosher influencers. All that was stuff that they had redacted stuff that was already public. Ryan Dawson been talking about for over a decade now, for almost 2 decades now. So yeah, it's just going to have to be leaked. And do I think it'll ever be leaked? I don't know. It's maybe one day when we just won't care anymore, where people, it will be so far beyond it that most of the people who care now will be gone. It's like the JFK thing. I could think they could announce who killed JFK and most people wouldn't even care. Or most people probably wouldn't even believe it.
Where can people find you, Pete?
Pete Quiñones Show. I'm on all the podcatchers, PeteSubstack.com. Old Glory Club. We live stream. I'm on there. The Old Glory Club live stream every Thursday night at 8 Eastern, YouTube and on X. So, yep. Come by. Check me out.
We didn't even get to our movie talk, man. We'll have to save that for next time. Real quick, though. You didn't see Superman?
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen Superman yet, no.
You going to see it? Or
is it worth it?
I'd be curious if you see it, what your thoughts were. I walked away from it. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. Some of it I thought was kind of funny. It was filmed in Cleveland, and you know me, I'm like the biggest Cleveland guy, so I wanted to see it partially because of that. Nothing memorable. I feel like all these movies are like that now. Like, do you follow The Critical Drinker on YouTube?
No.
Oh, he's a movie.
I know who he is. But
he's funny. He's funny, but he did a thing talking about Superman and then just movies over the last 20 years, and the fact that they've had to reinvent Superman again, third time in 20 plus years. They got no new ideas out there.
No. What did you think of the last Mission Impossible movie?
I've only seen the first 2. I've never seen the last.
Oh.
I'm so far behind, and they get better. I heard.
Oh, the last 2 you have to watch. Yeah, they're both connected. Ghost Protocol and I can't remember what the last one was called. It was just released recently.
But don't they get better from the third one and the fourth one? I mean, they get better as they go on.
Oh yeah. After the John Woo one, they're really good. They're excellent. But the last 2 were really good because there's a whole AI. It's addressing the AI issue, and it's not addressing it in a way that I think has any realism to it, but still it's entertaining enough. The way I look at this, from what I've heard of the Superman movie, is that I'll be watching the Superman movie with a pad and pen and just taking notes about, well, this part wasn't woke and this part was stuff. Like, I'm examining it from a cultural zeitgeist kind of thing.
I didn't see that though, because I went into that with an intention. I mean, a little bit of things you could point out. Again, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I thought there were some funny moments. A lot of, to me, was overkill. It was like, okay, now James Gunn is just doing the Marvel template in DC, which whatever. But I don't know. I mean, and the Fantastic Four that the reviews are saying are good. I want to see the F1, the Brad Pitt movie.
Yeah, that's one I'm interested in. I watch older movies now.
Me too.
Thomas and I are getting ready to watch. We do these watch and sort of like almost like a mystery science theater kind of thing. But we try to find look at like things from a cultural standpoint. Time it was written. First movie we did was Taxi Driver, and there's so much cultural stuff in there, Vietnam War kind of stuff. We're getting ready to do Zodiac, David Fincher's Zodiac from 2007. Thomas calls that the last great Hollywood studio blockbuster movie, and I've seen it like 10 times. It's a fascinating movie. It's one of the it's truly one of the best movies I've ever seen, just because of the way they built it, the how they build up to the story, and also it's fascinating the way, he was never caught. We don't know who Zodiac was, so just seeing how the things that they had to go through, in the late '60s, early '70s, to try and find somebody who, was basically toying with them, who seemed rather intelligent, was yeah, yeah. I think Fincher is Fincher is a pretty good director. So yeah.
Did you do real quick? And maybe you and I talked about this last time. I've been bringing it up. I brought it up in several shows. But Falling Down. Have we talked about that movie? Michael Douglas.
I mean, yeah, I've seen it many times.
The Critical Drinker about a year ago did a revisit on it, and when you go back and watch that movie, I don't know if you've seen it recently, but how that so plays into real life today.
Well, it plays into real life today, but it's the problem. It's the same problem that American History X had. Okay, so
I've seen that movie like 100 times. American History X.
So you're addressing Falling Down is addressing issues within the zeitgeist, but yeah, and negative issues, things that affect us all. But in the end, they make him out to be the bad guy. So the white guy, who goes on a rampage against all these minorities, oh, he's the bad guy. And they did the same thing in American History X. Oh, he had to make a black friend and come out and have a different opinion and everything. And it's like, I mean, it just seems so Hollywood, doesn't it? It seems so social engineering regime. Where it's like, okay, so this guy's dad is, murdered. I think his dad was a firefighter, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. And, he falls in with a bad group because he has opinions about the way power in the social engineering regime works. So, we have to give him a redemption arc where he, and it's like, how about people just are able to have opinions that you don't like? Yeah. I mean, I'm supposed to be tolerant of opinions that, leftists and progressives have. But my opinions about, maybe if it's like Scott Adams said a couple of years ago, if these people hate you, move away from them. Talking about black people. If these people have a problem with you, move away from them. Get as far away from them as possible. Because they seem to there's an animosity there. But you're not allowed to talk about it. People are allowed to hate you for what your ancestors did and who you are and what color, and yeah, I'm not one of these people who calls everyone a racist, because I think that that's just bullshit. But there is a level of bigotry involved, where it's like, okay, well, you hate me because, my skin is whiter than you like, but more so it has to do with the opinions that I have. Well, I'm allowed to have opinions back at you that surround the same issues, or am I not? And if I'm not, am I really, is this a free country? Oh, well, you're free. You're not free from the consequences of the way you think. Think about that. You have freedom of speech, but you don't have freedom from the consequences that speech brings. Okay, so I've never told anybody to get violent. I've never told anybody to pick up a gun. I've never told anybody to revolt against their government, because I think that would be really, really stupid. and counterproductive. Never told anybody to aggress against anybody because they disagreed with them, or they looked different from them, or they thought different from them. I've just said we're under occupation, and we aren't allowed to think freely, or and there's no country. People say, well, you don't like it, leave. There's no country. There are very few countries in the world, and plus, I'm from here. Fuck you. I was born here. My parents were born here. My grandparents were born here. Fuck you. Not going anywhere. No, I'm gonna do what other people did. I'm gonna work to change the way people think. Not even really change the government, because I think the government's far gone. I'm gonna work to change the way people think, and then I'm gonna try to get together with people who think of like mine. We'll plan for the future. If you don't like that, go fuck yourself. I mean, literally, what are you going to do to me? The only thing you can do is kill me. I mean, and people who threaten me with that all the time. I came to grips with that a long time ago. If it happens, it happens. I probably won't even know.
Pete, as always, I enjoy our conversations. I look forward to the next one, and look forward to continuing to follow your work.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Mic drop.